on a weekly basis. And as we now transition into our second segment, which focus on business, economy, and public policy, with my colleague Terry Coaxum and Dr. Donna Green on this segment. What we do is we take a greater look at the wider ecosystem from a macro level in terms of not just the U.S. as a country, but the U.S. being part of North America. And of course, you have the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And so issues that affect us is what we focus on in terms of the second segment in business, economy, and public policy. And what I'm going to do is let me get ready to, before I bring in my colleagues, let me just take a quick intro break, and then we'll be right back with the Marketplace segment reset show on Jumpstart TV, the second segment on business, economy, and public policy. We'll be right back. All right, folks, good afternoon again. Welcome back. This is the Marketplace Show Reset and Jumpstart. I'm Anthony Weeks, executive producer and host, alongside with my co-host and colleagues and contributor of this segment on business, the economy, and public policy. This segment and all of the various segment is brought to you by SETI. SETI is a macroeconomic and public policy think tank focusing on matters that are related to trade, geopolitical, as well as socioeconomic issues. And our particular emphasis on building a stronger, more cohesive, beneficial across both sides of the table for not only for the United States, but for all of the Caribbean. And SETI has an initiative called CASE. CASE is the acronym for Caribbean America's Single Economy. That's Caribbean America's Single Economy and Jumpstart. And what we do is we take our cue from what's already on the books. What's on the books is the law called the U.S. Strategy Engagement in the Caribbean. And so what we're going to do this today on today's show, we spoke previously about security matters. And we believe that if we're going to be a prosperous region, if we're going to make any headway, if we're going to be successful, it's going to take a collective approach to do so. All hands on deck. Not only the fact that we are expecting the Caribbean diaspora throughout the entire United States, but the U.S. territories that for too long have not been considered the Caribbean for whatever geopolitical reason, but because we're part of the United States, we're not considered the Caribbean. But guess what? We're part of the archipelago. We're in the Caribbean, okay? And so there's no surprise there. And so therefore, the Virgin Islands has a role to play going forward. But if the Virgin Islands is going to play its role, the Virgin Islands need to understand what its defined role is and what it uniquely brings to the table to be part of that conversation, to be able to move this region forward together. And we're going to do that. And we're going to start this journey and this process with my two dynamic colleagues in Terry Coaxum, a public policy person under the Obama administration, and with Senator Chuck Schumer. And of course, we have the political powerhouse in Dr. Karen Green. and the program up on the program right now. Ladies, good afternoon. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful, safe, and productive week. Hope your day is going great. How are you guys doing today?
Cold. I'm cold.
I like that. She came out the gate. She's like, oh my God, how cold is it? How cold is it?
24 degrees.
Ouch,
Yeah.
ouch,
Yeah.
ouch. Oh my God.
And in some places, they said with the wind chill, it's like 10. So it's cold. And I don't know if you guys know, I have custody of my 2-year-old great nephew. Oh, this is like heaven for him. He just wants to get outside and take off. I'm like, no, this is not okay. Let's go. we need to go inside now.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to send you some love. I'm going to send you some
I need it. Thank you.
tropical, virgin pure.
I need to bottle it and like sit it right here.
I'm going to bottle it. I'm going to bottle it.
Yeah, I need that.
So Karen, how you doing?
Some love too.
Thank you. From the Sunshine State.
Right.
Thank you.
We're anticipating some chills tonight as well. So
yeah, I heard.
Feel the warmth, sister. It's one of those times. There's no question we're dealing with climate change. Right. I don't think this has happened in so long, but this is all the reasons why diplomacy and the Caribbean Sunshine region is critical in the process going forward. Absolutely. So I had a very interesting week, but I just give thanks to the Lord. We're all here. That's and right. I think across the globe, we can all see that there are changes, structural, and for one, there's immunizations happening in rampant court records. Mm-hmm. As you could see here in the U.S. within the last week and last night, or President Joe Biden did have a forum last night, a town hall, and about distribution of how we make sure that there's inoculations and vaccines that are going to be going out. So I'm excited about that as well. That hopefully I get to see my friends and hug them again pretty soon.
I'm excited, but I'm a little disappointed at just some of the reports coming out of New York about just some of the reports that the zip codes that are receiving the vaccines aren't the ones that were highly impacted. And so that kind of disturbs me a little. But we're working on getting it back on track. And so
that doesn't surprise you, though. I know you're not surprised by that. It doesn't
surprise me, but like I said, disappointed. Didn't say surprise.
Okay. I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
Disappointed, especially being that we saw that Black and brown folks were being impacted at an alarming rate at the beginning of COVID. And so that really disappoints me. But again, we have leadership here that is really above and beyond. And so we have, of course, the governor is doing his part, and he's getting a lot of heat behind the numbers for the nursing homes. He's getting a lot of heat behind that, but they're also still pushing for equity across the board. And so, the governor is pushing for it. The attorney general is not having it. She's definitely pushing for it. The public advocate is out in front of it. We had Senator Parker on our show before, New York State Senator Kevin Parker, who's also running for controller, actually. But he's the state leaders as well as the city leaders. We're all, really making sure that this doesn't go unnoticed, that this is something that we're going to address and going to address it rapidly. Because like Karen said, this is record numbers that we're vaccinating people. And we need to make sure that the people that were impacted the most are getting an opportunity if they would like to get vaccinations. Because I listened to the last show, Anthony, with the doctor on and talking about the vaccination.
Dr. Angela Marshall, she was incredible.
She was good. She was really good. But if they want to get vaccinated, they should have an opportunity to do so, and it should be available to them. And as you know, there were some pharmacy deserts in some areas, and so we need to make sure that they're receiving that service as well.
Thank you so much. That's thank you so much for that report, Terry, from the New York Tri-State area. Terry is our co-host and contributor for our Jumpstart New York or Jumpstart Tri-State area, and she's out in New York and giving us a live report. Karen, I'm excited about today's show because, your guest, who's going to be contributing today, Gwinnett is, I just love her spirit. I just love her dynamism. I just think
look at Karen. You can't get nothing more. Come on, she just radiates.
No. Wait a minute. I had an opportunity, because Karen and I have known each other for a while. and she assembled a team of folks that I've never met before, right?
Okay.
And you know, chemistry is everything, right? And coming out of the gate, this was just a wonderful group of folks.
Yes.
And you
but
know,
that's what she do. That's how she do.
Gwinnett was like, yeah, just whatever you need done, let's just get it done. Let's just get it done. Let's just get it done. You gotta love that. You gotta love
work
that.
And no talk. Work. Like, let's work.
The only people were like that, but you know, Gwinnett and Karen and her crew told me differently. So let's bring in Gwinnett.
Okay.
And let's say I see she's there. I know that we're supposed to have another guest.
Hey guys.
Hi.
I know we're supposed to have another guest. We confirmed to have the former diplomat from Guyana on the program. He's not here yet. Is he still scheduled to be on the program?
He is.
He is.
Okay, he's not. He hasn't checked in yet. So someone may need to make sure that he's
not just a little bit.
There's a time difference, and so Gwinnett, can you reach out to our brother? There's no question.
I texted and I sent him also the StreamYard link again, even though Anthony had sent it. What might have happened is he may not have seen it from Anthony. So what I'm doing, I heard you guys talk about the cold. I was enjoying family in Alabama, and that text. Alabama cold came in, and I said, "Deuces, I am headed back to Florida." So, I was driving. Karen called me a little earlier. I was like, "Karen, I'm going to be in position in 10 minutes, but I just have to get out of Alabama."
let me just say, Anthony, there is in fact a reason why we're all here, because we attract the people that make sense in our lives. This is what happens. This is an influence of association. And I'm just so blessed to have you all here. Terry, Gwinnett, Anthony, this is a blessing all around. This is what it means to basically attract life. And so we're all doers on this call. Yeah. And I'm so blessed. Thank you so much. I'm truly happy to have Gwinnett on the call as well. Anthony, Gwinnett is truly a life and a light in the state of Florida. And I know she'll introduce herself in a moment. However, Gwinnett is one who represents the Caribbean Passport. She owns and operates, as well as GGR Network. I used to active to say Green Girls, remembering what it is. but a powerhouse when it comes to protecting and procuring and advancing our Caribbean community. Reflecting each and every person in our community. Last year in 2020, she was also the recipient of the Congressional Award for Caribbean Leadership. And I think if there was anyone who I should have on this program is my sister, who not only looks out for, she is a political powerhouse in her own rights.
Another political powerhouse. Oh my God. I thought Gwinnett was a media mogul or something, and now you're telling me she's a political powerhouse too. Oh my gosh!
How do you message?
We both know that minority media. Some of the minority media is controlled by outside resources, and I try to tell people all the time. Yeah. As a community, support your local media, because that's where you're getting authentic voices from. We all know we're in media, that media shouldn't be trifled with, because that's what's forming and shaping opinions. And I think more than ever we're seeing it. But I'm very conscious of making sure that the content that gets to the Caribbean community that we deal with is real, is honest, is true, is telling them the facts, is calling them out on their BS as well, because as a people we have that. But I just wanted to say that, Anthony, what you said earlier, I mean, I was backstage, but what you said about Virgin Islands taking their place and Puerto Rico taking their place, that, oh my goodness, it's been, and I've had this conversation with Karen. I have a lot of people from the Virgin Islands in the chamber who asked me, step forward. And I said, I will push you if you step forward. let me get some authentic Virgin Island representation, because you guys are not aware of the power you have, and your voices are very silent. And I don't know if it's that Caribbean upbringing that is definitely not an American way, where you step to the forefront and you just speak. Caribbean people, we don't. We tend to think. Are we qualified enough to give an opinion on that? What I love about Americans is that thought doesn't go through their head. They give an opinion. And so when you're trying to navigate this space, you've got to be an American. You've got to speak and just be comfortable that what you say has power and authority, right? If it's not real, if it's not right, somebody will argue with you, but don't overthink it, because you lose your moment. Mm-hmm. And I find that the community I have here in Central Florida, the Virgin Island community, very strong, very amazing people, but they're not stepping up to speak up for the Virgin Islands and to say, this is important. And I especially noticed it during the hurricanes. Mm-hmm. I was in the rooms with the Puerto Rican community, and I would speak up and say, please, when you're speaking about aid or doing a food drive or doing something for Puerto Rico, what about Virgin Islands? And then somebody from the Virgin Islands who was part of the local government would meet me outside and say, thank you for saying that. And my words was, why didn't you say it? Mm-hmm. If a Puerto Rican person was in the room, they would speak up.
Speaking of moments, Gwinnett. Yeah. Speaking of moments, you're absolutely right. Having a voice, especially being at the table, having a voice is extremely important to getting what we need as a people. Mm-hmm. And speaking of moments, I think that one of the impeachment managers, Representative Stacey Plaskett, the moment was right. The moment was real. She spoke up. She spoke out. She held her own. And I think that should be a testimony for all of those that are sitting at the table and not having a voice, that if they don't have a voice, then they're not going to be heard. My grandmother, I'm from the South, my grandmother always said, closed mouth don't get fed. So if they're not saying what they need, then the others are going to get the resources, and then we're going to be sitting behind complaining that we weren't able to get our fair share. So it's really important that we have you, Gwinnett, at the table, having a voice, but also encouraging the others that are in the room, encouraging them to get into the room, because that's a whole another set of another set of circumstances, to have a voice, to be unique, to be authentic, but more importantly, to be true to yourself and true to the territories, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to be at the table.
And that was my thought. I thought that they weren't in the room. Right? I really thought they were in the room, only to find out they are in the room. The thing is that they is almost like you can pass. So you don't know if somebody from the Virgin Islands necessarily from the Virgin Islands or if they're American. And so if they don't speak, if they don't come and tell me, I wouldn't know. But I got so many afterwards.
Is it?
And my thought is,
is it? And I'm going to throw a grenade in the room and maybe walk out when I throw it. Okay. But for so long, as a Caribbean man, right? Caribbean American man, right? Born in the Virgin Islands, but my parents are from the Eastern Caribbean. I grew up with, the, how do you call it? The polarization of what it means of, even though I was born in the Virgin Islands, my parents came from Long Island. But in that discourse, you always hear often of the big island and the little island mentality. Okay, the big islands were the ones that were pretty much out front, were the rambunctious ones, the ones that were, standing up and they were shaking the trees, the Jamaicans, right? The Haitians, right? The Guyanese, right? You guys, there's a certain sense of fortitude that you guys have. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering how much of that is true or lends credence to the big island and small island mentality from a cultural perspective, because what I'm hearing from you guys, it just seems like, Karen is a Jamaican, Gwinnett, you are a Guyanese, Terry, of course, is a Black American from the South, right? You can't tell her she kick butt, kick ass kind of woman, right? And I'm a Kalaloo. I'm a little bit of everything, right? But I'm a New Yorker, and the reason why Stacey Plaskett is the way she is because Stacey Plaskett is a Virgin Islander. Her parents are from the Virgin Islands, but Stacey was born in New York. New York. She's a New Yorker.
God,
and
I Bronx District Attorney's Office too.
Yeah.
So Bronx District Attorney's Office got to be tough.
And so my
but
stomping
it might
ground.
be that New York edge that's what's doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's my point. That is my point. My point is being exposed to the environment of a New York City. New York was my training ground. I've been living back and forth between the New York tri-state area and the Virgin Islands since I've been like 5 years old, right? So I've been exposed. I understand the deal. So I'm very New Yorkish. Stacy's very New Yorkish. So she doesn't shy away or back down from standing up and saying and raising her hands in the back of the classroom saying, "Oh, wait a minute.
That's
okay,
right.
I got something to say here." Okay. And she shined like a star.
Oh my God.
And I told her, I told Congresswoman Stacey Plask and former Congresswoman Donna Christensen, I said the strategy we have as Virgin Islanders is we need to do a recheck on that. Because the fact is, as a U.S. territory, yes, we have a member serving in Congress, but we can't vote in the general election for the president. We can vote in the primary, in the caucus for the president, for selecting the president. But also we can serve in Congress and we can serve on various subcommittees,
right.
but we can't vote on the general floor. So what has to happen? What has to happen is that, like other Asian countries and their citizens coming into this country, when they come here, they come in and they are part of the process. They help to influence the landscape and the tapestry of their nationality and ethnicity coming from where they come from. Virgin Islanders need to be more involved in the political process on the mainland. Because guess what? When we no longer live in the U.S. Virgin Islands and we choose to live anywhere in the United States, we now have the ability to run for president and can be elected president. We can vote for the president. We can vote in Congress. We can so basically, someone forgot to tell us. Listen, you can move to the U.S. mainland and you have all of the same benefits and the rights because you are U.S. citizens, and so therefore we need to be able to leverage that.
And that's something that I did for the Spanish community here, the Puerto Rican community. They did a simple newspaper, Misión Boricua, which just said, when you're here, this is how voting happens, because you can vote here. It's a conversation I've had only recently with Virgin Islanders. I said, I'm not saying that we're thankful that you guys look at yourself as Caribbean immigrants like us, but you guys have the voting power. You're almost seeming as nervous about it as, another immigrant group. You are not. You have voting power. You guys should be the ones that are standing stronger and us following. But I do think, Anthony, it comes from conditioning, and it may be from schooling, because I'll tell you, when I actually came here, I had many times where the conversation passed me because I was thinking about what I should speak about. I was not just speaking. I would think, because that was how I was trained in school in Guyana. And I think that training may be what is done in the Virgin Islands, because the people are exactly the same, where you're not just saying your thoughts. I had to get past that. That is just something I had to get past and just say, I don't have to overthink it. My opinion has worth. Let me just do it, because this is how it's done in America. And so we have, when I tell you,
it's called understanding your power. And I know Karen wants to say something, but I want to say something. If it's the one word I want to say, we can use. If you don't understand the power that you have, you become complacent, and a certain level of apathy starts to set in, and therefore you become ineffective. And so therefore you need to understand, we Virgin Islanders, if Stacey's performance in Congress representing the impeachment manager, if her performance doesn't say to you what power it is, then I don't know what is. I don't know what.
She was phenomenal.
Karen, you say something, Karen?
Well, I think we've all said so much to empower not just the freedom of speech, as Gwyneth indicated, Folks on the Virgin Islands, they are studied in school, the Constitution. And it's the same First Amendment that gives us the right to say everything and anything in this country. It's the same thing that's literally did everything that Stacey opted to do in her job to impeach as a prosecutor. It's the same thing that protected 45, the former president, the fact that he spoke, the First Amendment protected him.
Yeah.
But to go back to the point, I am so honored and blessed to have your state representative, Stacey Plaskett, to see her as a friend and a sister.
Yeah.
Not only did she lead with her, you're saying that she is from the UVI, she is a New Yorker. What she is a brilliant Black woman.
Absolutely.
Who has done her work, studied, represented, and in all honesty, it was historic.
Yeah, it was.
See her during Black Heritage Month stand there and represent every Black woman in this country and across the globe. At this point, she's always been an advocate for the U.S. territories.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you right now that every territory across that are U.S. territories, as far as the American Samoas and Guam and the Marian Islands, I've been contacted by everyone with pride that here we have our representative who's gone out to look about us, to represent us, for the same reasons you said. She wasn't even able to vote for the because of the conditions of restrictions of voting as a representative from the U.S. territories. But more importantly, we now know the strength of this woman.
That's
and
right.
I don't think for any moment that the U.S. Virgin Islands is not going to benefit from the advancement of her continuous work. Right. For example, we're touching on diplomacy today and all the areas that she's been leading on. She has long been an advocate for economics, for energy, for agriculture, for the unity that the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico has. Mm-hmm. She has long been consulted on issues across the other territories. And you're right, Anthony, and also Gwyneth. Gwyneth, you know that every opportunity that or Representative Stacey Plaskett has, she comes to the mainland and helps with any level of engagement and commitment. I have seen her on the ground helping out in issues of immigration advocacy. And even though U.S. citizens from the U.S. Virgin Islands are not affected by this kind of a treaty, she has been a supporter of her colleagues, particularly Congressman Darren Soto, and from our region in Central Florida, as well as Fleming's Congresswoman as well. She's long been doing the work. So Anthony, I think we have an opportunity now. I know we're on the level of diplomacy, but one of the most wonderful things that I think we're doing here is tapping into the resources collectively of all of us from across the globe. For Terry has long been a financier, an advisor on marketing and trade, and Gwyneth is a guru of information. That one who continues to engage the triple languages we have in the U.S. territories and in the United States, of our Haitian Creole or Hispanic-speaking folks or Portuguese. We have this vast opportunity of being able to cover the areas we've been touching on this issue, or security, or economics, or diplomacy, or education. And so I'm just excited that from this body, we have been able to tap the leaders in our region. Mm-hmm. Anthony, thank you so much for the opportunity of being able to suggest and to recommend that everything we do here collectively, I know your congresswoman is listening to your program. I know she has ears on the ground to make sure that information doesn't go by her. I know that the people in DC and the people in our hearing and the people we communicate with want to know what we do, because you know why? Even though you don't vote there for the president, but the decision of when you caucus as delegates, your decisions, your voting rights, and your voting power is what literally steers the presidencies on the mainland.
That's right.
Let me. Okay, we need to take a break, and I know, and I wanna make sure our audience know we properly introduce Gwyneth, because we didn't properly introduce her, and so they know from where she speaks in terms of her just knowledge and position of authority on a particular subject matter. and what's happening within the region. But before we go to break, let me just say this. I reckon, and I am going to challenge every Virgin Islander, whether locally in the United States Virgin Islands or Virgin Islands anywhere, particularly on the U.S. mainland or around the world, that's watching and viewing this program and listening to this program. Look, for me, it's a matter of semantics. Geographically, when we are in or on the land in the U.S. Virgin Islands, we have limited ability to do X, Y, Z. The minute we jump on a plane or a boat or a canoe, or if we choose to swim, and we leave the Virgin Islands and we are on the U.S. mainland, we have all the rights and all the powers, and all the like every other American, period.
Yeah.
We can run for president of the United States and get elected if we have that base. So I don't think we should continue to harp and dwell. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I think they said it takes 2/3 of the Congress to vote to make a territory, a state, or something like that. I don't remember what the numbers are, but you need like 2/3 of the country or and Congress to be able to pass that. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. Okay, but we should not become paralyzed, disabled in thinking, in our thought process. We are helpless to do what needs to be done. Let's start to educate ourselves, educate our children. If they're going to pursue politics, and say, listen, get involved in your municipal government, get involved in your state government, run for Congress. Okay, you can become the the vice president and the president of the United States. We have the ability to effectuate change in this country. We have the ability to choose and vote. It's just a matter of semantics, folks. Don't get caught up in the semantics.
Yeah.
When I leave the territory and go to mainland, I have the same rights as everybody else as a citizen. That's what the power is.
And I think it's important that everybody that's under the voice that's listening to us on the show understand that, and understand that like you said, it's just main semantics, but more importantly, in order for us to to see the change, we have to be a part of the change, right? So we're talking about in the show, we're talking about jumpstarting the economy. We're talking about business, the economy, and politics and policy, diplomacy. And we're also talking about security. And these are all the things that are changing our lives, no matter where we are in the world today, right? So I think that one of the things that, if anything else comes out of the conversation that we've had today, is making sure the people that we know that are in the territories are empowered with the information that we just shared on this show, that we're giving them the tools and the nuggets and the tips and the training. And Gwinnett is already on it with the news. I mean, I think that's brilliant to have a fact, a fact sheet of here's what you can do that you're here now. I think that is really important for us to make, to help people to understand once they're on the mainland, here are all the opportunities. But more importantly, I also want them to do what they're doing in the Virgin Islands. The Virgin Islands are tenacious people, right? Karen and I both know we've been there. We've been on teams. We've seen it work. We're talking about the first 100 days, right? So there's so much more to do. And I think this conversation is only a part of it. And so I know we have to jump and go on a break, but I think it's really important that we share this information on all our social media outlets. And Gwinnett, if we have the little fact sheet for Virgin Islanders, here's what you need to do. Here's what you are able to do once you're here. I think that's really important in helping in that education piece, so that we can empower them and encourage them to get them to that next level. And then we'll be their support. Not just us on the line, but the whole territories and everyone that cares about what's going on there.
All right. When we come back, folks, we're gonna take a deep dive in the U.S. strategy engagement in the Caribbean law that's on the books, that was passed in 2016.
Yes.
And we're going to take a look at we addressed the security matter, was the first item on the agenda. We're now in the diplomacy segment. And we're going to take a look at that. Why? Because we have two Guyanese guests as contributors to the program. And so the question becomes, what was the U.S. Guyana relationship like during the Obama administration?
Mm-hmm.
under the President Trump administration, and now that we have a Biden Harris administration, what can we expect that relationship to be like? Why is that important? Whether you believe, again, this is semantics. If Guyanese consider themselves Caribbean, who are you to tell them they're South American? If Guyanese say they're Caribbean, why are we arguing whether or not they're South American?
Yeah.
Okay. Semantics.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And we believe with all our heart.
Exactly. So we're going to look at the conflict that exists between Venezuela and Guyana. Mm-hmm. And what role is the U.S. not the Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands as well, but the United States of America, what policies are in place to address this ongoing conflict? Because before it gets too far gone, mm-hmm. we need to have an open dialogue and discussion as to what has to be done, what we can do to influence the process and the outcome of that. Okay, this is the Marketplace Show Reset on business, economy, and public policy. Jumpstart. We'll be right back.
Small business is a part of all of us each and every day. It's where we eat, it's where we shop, it's where we go to meet our friends and colleagues. In the wake of COVID-19, our small business community desperately needs our help. We must do our part to help our local communities to once again thrive. We must focus our attention on the small businesses that are the fabric of our great nation. SureUp is a network of small business owners, their employees, and local consumers all working in unison to support each other. By creating incentives for consumers to think local before considering regional and national providers to fulfill their needs, we create local job opportunities and rebuild our communities. In addition, through AI-driven tools and machine learning, in just 5 minutes a day, SureUp assists business owners in improving their social media presence, which enhances their visibility among consumers and levels the playing field so that local businesses can better compete with large, name-brand online competitors. When local businesses leverage the SureUp platform, full-time and part-time employees, whether W-2 or 1099, are rewarded with a variety of voluntary perks and member benefit options. These include discounts on the things people do every day, access to low-cost, subscription-based telehealth and teletherapy, discounted prescription drug plans, connection to exclusive Prosper resources, and so much more. All for less than the cost of a cup of coffee each day. The Jumpstart Marketplace is here to support the health and wellness of individual employees, as well as the health of businesses in the local communities in which we live and work. We're all in this together, so join us as we reinvigorate our local community and improve the physical and financial health of working America.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is, I'm Anthony Weeks, executive producer and host of The Marketplace and Reset and Jumpstart on the WSCX radio, on Tempo Television, on Kalaloo Network, joined by my colleague, Terry Coaxum as well. And we have a special guest on the program and contributor, Gwinnett Gittins Roberts. I'm gonna, before we introduce her, let me just let you know. Okay, somebody mute your microphone. We're getting some background.
Yeah, I apologize. I am trying to walk Wesley through it. So his computer had Chrome. Okay. So I'm just gonna try to do that. So okay. We get him.
So I'll put you back in. I'll put you back in queue and put you back up in a second. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So my colleagues, ladies, so people know that we're not having hypothetical conversation.
Right.
We're not having feel-good conversation. We're literally working with the law, just like you have the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third, Fourth, Fifth. This is law of the land, mm-hmm. of what is the U.S. Policy position. What are they prepared to do? What is that commitment to the Caribbean? So we're speaking from the reference of the law that is called the U.S. Strategy Engagement in the Caribbean. We touched on security before. Now we're at diplomacy. And so while we have two guests from Guyana that was going to contribute to the program, under this law, under the category of diplomacy, it says the United States Caribbean Strategic Engagement Act of 2026 reflects a broad interest in more robust and regular engagement between the Caribbean leaders and the U.S. government. Increased institutionalized engagement will lead to more effective coordination of the disparate components of the U.S.-Caribbean relationship and forge greater multilateral cooperation at the Organization of American States and United Nations. Enticing U.S. Caribbean engagement. Bullet point says U.S. Caribbean dialogue. The department, with the support and participation of relevant interagency and congressional leaders, will convene an annual consultative meeting with Caribbean leaders. The meeting will provide a venue for advancing the agenda outlined in this strategy. Next bullet point says U.S. diplomatic engagement in the Eastern Caribbean. We're funding to become available. The department could explore expanding the diplomatic and consulate presence in Eastern Caribbean countries that do not currently host a permanent U.S. diplomatic mission. And third, Caribbean American diaspora diplomacy. The department will tap into the robust Caribbean diaspora community in the United States to promote the goals of this strategy. Before I bring back up Gwinnett, ladies, what any comments, any takeaway from those provision of that law?
Well, I just wanted to stress that I've seen the document. I've seen where the commitment of the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris's engagement also includes Central America, as we would know, include our Guyanese folks, the basin. I'm hopeful. I think there was we had a lot of trade, but we didn't have proper negotiations. And I think that's what happened in the previous administration, that there was a whole lot of talk about trade, but there was no real dialogue. And for that reason, you stress on the last piece of that document, there were a lot of delegate roles and that were not filled. There were literally representatives across this globe that didn't have any representation of ambassadors in those positions. As a matter of fact, even right now, the contra we have going on in Haiti, it's unbelievable that we have a region that one of the areas that Joe Biden has stressed in his administration is that he will have ongoing relationships. He will have the dialogue of leadership. And in some areas, as we know our brother from Guyana will be talking about, is that there's long been a lot of corruption in our community, not just for security, but even in the area of diplomacy. The negotiations that have to happen will be there. I'm content that the partnership initiative that this document and this law is suggesting is going to advance us, because for one reason we're all here, and this discussion is, as I said, is not falling on deaf ears, because we are coming together with suggestions, recommendations, and there's no question that the policy issues and the geniuses that are on the ground are aware of our community and the needs that have to happen. And as you said earlier, your state representative is on the ball, making sure that these things and issues are connected. So I digress to Terry. I'm not sure she wants to contribute here as well.
Yeah, of course. I think that, I've seen the document as well. And as you were reading off the bullet points, the things that are sticking out to me is engagement, relationships, and resources, quite frankly, making sure that the resources are to bear as well. So just having a conversation and even a dialogue and then no resources. I think most importantly is that while we're engaging in conversation, we're going to have the resources available and some solutions. Guys, I'm always a solution-based person. So what comes out of this is going to be the changes that are going to be positive in the Caribbean and in the communities that are being represented here. And I'm very hopeful. I think that the Biden-Harris administration is ready, boots on the ground. And so we got all hands on deck and we're ready to go, because we want to make sure Gwinnett and Karen and Anthony, we want to make sure that they're hearing our voice. We want to make sure that whatever the issues and concerns are, the barriers, the best practices, and the big ideas, we want to bring it all to bear through our representatives, through our leadership, and through these conversations that we're having, and making sure that they're engaging conversations and not merely being told what to do at this point.
By the way, Gwinnett, a Marilyn Gale Muna, I posted her thing there.
Marilyn, I know Marilyn.
She said it depends on which Guyanese you're talking to, right? Whether or not they consider themselves Caribbean or South American, right? So by the way,
look, we really are both, but if you ask a Guyanese, the first thing they really come out with is Caribbean, not South American. By a long shot. And it's much more expensive for us to get to the various countries in South America, as opposed to even getting to the Caribbean. For us, growing up, we spent all of our vacations in the Caribbean. The culture is very much more like the Caribbean, and so for us, I hesitate to think that there's any Guyanese I can think of that will say I am more South American than I am Caribbean. There's none that I know of. Marlon, I love you, but you might know of one or two. There's not many. But I wanted to add with what you guys were talking about on the issue of the Biden administration. What we have to realize is that we have to attend the whether it's the Black Caucus events, we have to show up as a community. We have to get to Tallahassee. We've got to get to DC. There are events that are planned every year where our voices could be heard. Our community chooses not to do it, and we have to own that. We have to. So then the people who show up, that's the ones whose voices are heard. We have to show up to these things to ensure the administration knows what we want. Because I for one, I'm tired of people saying, oh, they did nothing for us. Whether it is they did nothing for us as Black people, they did nothing for us as Caribbean people. My thing is, were you in the room asking for something? And if you weren't, then let's not even go down that road, right? So we need to show up. We need to show up. There are definitely caucuses that are out there. Unfortunately for us, the Caribbean caucus as a whole is not as dynamic as it should be. And we've got to work on that. That's something that we have to work on across the United States. It's just not there. But I feel like these conversations, we're all headed in the right direction. Anthony, with firing us up, one of the things that I plan to leave here to do is I am going to be changing the cover of the newspaper. I'm putting Stacey Plaskett on the front. My editorial is going to be about this is how you use your voice. So these things help. They help because I really wanted to say we have so many Virgin Islanders here. I see them all the time at events, and it's one of the reasons why I started the newspaper is because I saw our Caribbean people at parties. I did not see them speaking up properly in business and political arenas. And
I want to interject there, because one of the things I came to know in my Virgin Island home-based family is that politics is as much fun as carnival, because that is part of the sport and a way of life in the U.S. territories.
That's right.
And so what I find interesting is that there's not much municipal participation in the mainland of folks from the English-speaking part of territories, because Puerto Ricans are all involved in politics. Most of them have run for municipal election and offices, but there is something, as you said before, that needs to, I think, with the involvement that Stacey just did, Wesley's here, it's going to be a big difference going forward. Wesley, let me welcome you as well before Anthony even does that. I know you're there. I know you're there in Guyana, enrollment, and you're joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late.
Perfect.
But here's what we're going to do, though, because we really don't have enough time. We're going to have to. We have literally 7 minutes before this segment ends. Unfortunately, we're going to have to maybe continue this segment next week, if your schedule permits, because I know, Wesley, you were having some technical issues. And so obviously we're not going to be able to accomplish what we set out just today. on this program. So if you guys okay, what we can do is we'll continue, with the 7 minutes we have left, but let's plan on regrouping next week if your schedule permit to do so.
Well, I would welcome the opportunity if Wesley is able to, because the issues that are happening in this part of the hemisphere, what's happening in Guyana, Venezuela, and in Haiti, and here in the Caribbean is what it used to be in Iraq and in the Persian Gulf. We're dealing with a whole lot of issues that is going to affect us in the Caribbean discussions of engagement. So if at all possible, Wesley, we still want to introduce you both. We still haven't had a formal introduction of our guest. Anthony, could you please? And then we will invite you, please, to join us next week to look at the areas of the what's going on in Venezuela, as well as what is affecting you there in Guyana, and to see the effects of what happened just this week, yesterday, with a carnival in Haiti that has now created a bombardment from Bahamas, that there's no restriction. They're not allowing Haitians to come into Bahamas. Right. And there is for the same reason that because of the corona, what they saw as no precautions. So we have a whole lot of stuff to talk about next week if you all have time. And Wesley, I would encourage you, please, Anthony, could you please recognize and introduce our guests in their formal capacities?
Yes. Okay, so real quickly, Gwinnett Gittens-Roberts is the CEO of GGR Marketing and Public Relations. She is responsible for developing and directing their communication strategy while also managing the agency throughout outreach to the advertising, charitable, and business communities. GGR Marketing and Public Relations was formed to develop and execute programs aimed at reaching multicultural communities and niche market. She is the owner and publisher of the Caribbean American Passport News magazine, the largest Caribbean-owned statewide newspaper in Florida, period.
All right.
Caribbean American Passport covers the people of English, French, and Spanish communities throughout their publishing arm. They were responsible for publications of Mission Barracuda. Is it Barracuda? A Spanish. Okay, I'll leave that for you. That's a Spanish publication designed to raise awareness for the Puerto Rican community vote. Gwinnett is active in the community, serving for 7 years as president of the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce, vice president of Central Florida Association of Black Journalists, vice president of the Guyanese American Cultural Association of Central Florida, program director of Caribbean American Business Expo, and vice president of Caribbean Affairs at Realty World Orlando. She's now the president of the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce of Florida. Again, she's a native of Georgetown, Guyana. Our next guest, and we're doing this, we are doing the formalities because next week we will jump right in when we have the discussion on the program. Okay, and the next guest he is a diplomat where he served and represented his country. Wesley Curtin is a journalist, business executive, and former Guyanese diplomat resident in Miami, Florida. He's currently president of the Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce and chair of the Private Sector Council at the Washington, D.C. based Institute of Caribbean Studies. We have literally 3 minutes before we end this segment. Consider the fact, Wesley, that you were not able to participate earlier. Anything you want to just kind of mention just before we continue next week on this discussion?
Just to say very quickly that,
and I don't know if it's me, but I'm not hearing Anthony very well. Are you guys hearing Anthony well?
I can hear Anthony well, yes.
Yeah, I'm hearing him fairly clearly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Gwinnett is you. It's you,
awesome.
Are you hearing me? No, I was just saying very quickly that, I think we're at a critical juncture in U.S.-Caribbean relations, and I think the diaspora has a critical role to play in forging meaningful relations between particularly the CARICOM member states and the U.S. And I think we have got to engage our elected officials in the U.S. and in the Caribbean to look at the issues that affect us both and see how we could address those in a meaningful way that would bring about a better quality of life eventually for the people of the US and the Caribbean. There are a number of issues. A very important one now is the availability and the provision of vaccines to deal with the coronavirus in the Caribbean. While we are working, our Caribbean governments are working with the World Health Organization to ensure that there are adequate supplies, I think we've got to work with our friends in the US to ensure that supplies are adequate, so that we could stem the tide in terms of the spread of the virus in the Caribbean. Also, the virus has had a really devastating impact on our tourism in the region in particular. And so we've got to talk to nations that are friendly with us, including the US, as to how we might be able to mitigate some of the disastrous effects of the virus, particularly on our business community. We've also got to look at the supply chain, how this affects the supply of imports into the Caribbean from the US, and vice versa, exports from the Caribbean to the US. So there are a number of really critical issues that we need to address. We need to be discussing with our elected officials, so that we might be able to influence policy that is of mutual benefit to the US and the CARICOM region.
Wesley, I'm so grateful that you touched on all these areas, because you've basically covered the entire Caribbean-based initiative of engagement, all these areas of our industries and our procurement and our securities. So I look forward to the continued discussion next week as it relates to all these topics and areas of study of interest going forward in our policy negotiations. Thank you as well, Wesley, for joining us. And Gwyneth, as always, my beloved sister, we will continue to secure and protect our Caribbean diaspora as we continue to advance the development and engagement of our great space, the Caribbean Basin.
Food for thought when we come back.
And I just wanted to say, all that I learned and all the way I was pushed out to speak was as a result of Wesley. So that's where I got my push from, as a Caribbean person who didn't have that voice. And that's why I continue to push people. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
That's why mentorship is really important. Mentorship is really important. The one thing that I want to add, and I know Anthony's going to give us food to thought to leave on, but I want everyone that's listening to us to please support your elected officials. The only way that we're able to engage in these conversations and change and move the needle is we're supporting Yvette Clarke, we're supporting Stacey Plaskett, we're supporting our leaders that we're putting into these positions. And so Val Deming, so I need everyone to please support the elected officials so that they can be at the table. We can have these conversations and dialogue with them, and we can make the changes that Wesley just spoke about that we need to make. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on today.
All right, guys, that's it for us. We will reconvene, circle back next week. Thank you much for your precious time. Looking forward to the dialogue next week. All right, have a good day, folks.
Okay.
All right, guys.